Frog content, go. Magnificent frog, specifically the magnificent tree frog. Lovely way I did that, yeah? But the magnificent tree frog is essentially a white tree frog that they made hard to breed, gave a really cool head structure, and increased their lives by a good chunk of change. Obviously, if you're looking at this magnificent tree frog, then, well, you're simply seeing they have a huge head. They have a huge kind of thing on the back of their head that is weird. It's odd. If you ask me, it reminds me of a bunch of venomous snakes with their venom glands. Lovely. But they're not venomous to my knowledge. Imagine though, I get a DM, you know they're venomous. That'd be hilarious. These animals, like the white tree frog, like drier environments, which makes them easy for a lot of new keepers to keep, because a lot of things that require humidity is something that is kind of hard. Magnificent tree frog prefers drier environments, even drier than most white tree frogs, which is really nice and really interesting. But unlike their white tree frog buddy, they've been gifted with an extremely long life for a tree frog. Give a little good chunk of change versus what a white tree frog can live. Isn't that drastically different? I think you're probably like, oh, where are they? Why aren't they all here? No! Simply because they're hard to breed. A little hard to breed. It requires some kind of drying and a bunch of weird stuff. And even people who have bred them, so it's like every other year they can produce them and go successfully on it. So, odd. Yeah. Breed them. Crown tree frogs are one of the best tree frogs in my opinion, and possibly one of my favorite frogs, most like everything on this list. Now, the crown tree frog, as you see, they have crowns essentially coming up on their head. Now, the real odd thing is that if I found this picture, you're seeing it, is, well, they have bones on their head that make the crowns. It isn't just random assortments of meat and flesh. It is skeleton structures that can vary, which is really interesting if you ask me. Because one individual can have more spikes on their head than another individual. They live kind of a good chunk of change. Now, many will say the max is 15 years, and with most tree frogs, when it comes to long-lived species, when the max is the max is the roof. You ain't going above that yet. So who knows, maybe in 10 years, 15 years is 20 years for them. Who knows? But it's amazing. They live long lives. The only downside is they don't produce massive clutches. They'll lay a general amount of 25 eggs. Now, here's the real interesting part. They'll only fertilize 25, but will continue to lay extra eggs to feed their tadpoles, which is really interesting because to my knowledge, this is the only known tree frog to do this. You see this in some dart frogs, but when it comes to tree frogs, no mas. They're the only one, which is really interesting, really nice, and it makes them a prime candidate for anyone wanting to breed an animal and watch those special breeding behaviors. An amazing animal. Why they're one of my favorite frogs. Alright, Bumblebee Toads. But, you know, these are small-bodied toads, real small, nice black on them, real bright yellows. Then, you know, real interesting species, I tell you. But the real interesting thing about them, in my opinion, is how they move. It's very cryptic. It's very much like, you know, crawling. It's not like boop, boop, boop. You know, it's very weird. It's very awesome, if you ask me. I love watching them move, now if you can't tell. They're a lot like dart frogs, in the sense that a lot of dart frog keepers actually really like them because how similar they are to keeping, well, a lot of their dart frog species already, and they're built like a lot of dart frogs, so it kind of just fits in at home with them. Alright, it's Royal Anoles, the always in the video. You need to sub, like, share, everything. But this time, we're a moving vehicle. Don't worry, I'm not driving. Yeah, alright, back to the real video. European green toad is a really interesting toad, just on the fact that they look so similar to the Egyptian green toad, but the Europeans a plus with their better saturated, more rich coloration, with their larger builds, better bodies. Yeah, and that's just off their appearance. Now, let's talk about the real stuff that actually matters a lot. How they work, how you keep them, all this and that. Since they're a European green toad, and they are in many different little environments over there, they are able to adapt extremely well and do well in a variety of environments, which makes them great for the beginning keeper and makes them really easy to keep, because unlike the Egyptian where they always want to burrow down or hide under the soil and only come out when rain or feeding comes out, they'll be enjoying themselves out in the air, where, you know, them Egyptians, they're pretty and all, but it's like owning a pet rock on the stream. Is that, well, they have not been imported in a good chunk of change, which has made their population in the US extremely small, since no one really could breed them till about a couple months ago with my buddy there. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is, well, they were pretty much imported from this guy. I ain't gonna say, because he's working on a video and it's a whole story and it's hilarious. But, you know, pretty much they were imported, sold to this guy, no one could breed them, got to him, boom, bomb, bing, had holes. Now they got legs. I don't know if he's posted this one yet, but now you're seeing it. Yeah, these animals are pretty much, their only downside is that many can't breed them. But for a pet toad, that's really good, because at the end of the day, if anyone could breed it, have cane toads. Pretty much what I'm saying with that is, you know, if they're overbred too much, you're gonna have a more likelihood of incidences where I don't want this toad anymore, throw it outside, or a kid bought something they should have and mommy tells them to throw it outside thinking it's a Mexican Gulf Coast toad or something. Yeah, that depending on where you are, that's native, but yeah. And then invasive, boom. That's if they can breed, but yeah. Firebelly Toad. Now, unlike most of these little frogs on toads on this list, they're not a tree frog. You're gonna find these frogs down in the water. You know, they're mainly aquatic species. I'll be on land here and there. So when you do their setups, you want to do about half and half, a little less land here and there, give or take. Yeah, really interesting species, real pretty. Now, the thing about Firebelly Toads is that, well, in the USA, they have a couple different things going on alone. You know, you've recently got the Azanthics, you got the browns, you got the lime greens, you got the dark greens. But overseas, they go a little crazy. Not one, don't they have the patternless, then they have the albino, then they have this, like, you know what I'm saying? They have a lot. Now, to my knowledge, they haven't crossed these gene combos, and as we know in the reptile world, you know, when you cross different genes together, sometimes you get new genes. Average bald python people, you know? But, you know, cool stuff going on. And then if you peek around a little bit, well, there just so happens to be an island that has some black, which is really cool. Now, to my knowledge, those groups, essentially the black on their back, has just been expanding over time, which has made them black, or they're just melanistic. No one knows. You can't go to the island and get them because of the laws. So it is what it is. We can only look at them on iNaturalist.